problem. But I wanted to take a look at Nehemiah here because we're talking about, methods. I mean, if we really do honor and respect, you know, uh, the people that you say that you come from, you think you would continue in their customs, as you would say. I mean, so if you read here, it says this, and these are the sons of ones who came up from Telea, but they were unable to show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. And so it says also that these sought their register. And I looked at that word, and basically it just means written record, whether it's in a book, scroll, whatever. I looked it up plenty of times. These sought their register among those who were counted by genealogy, but it was not found. So they were barred from the priesthood as defiled. So they couldn't, find themselves by genealogy. And the way that they traced their genealogy was through a written record of who their parents were. And I'm sure specifically their father, probably our best guess, is because of everything that we see in 1st and 2nd Chronicles. So-and-so begot so-and-so, and so-and-so begot so-and-so. In all those chapters, we just look at all those names and we don't read them. Then all of a sudden, I have something down here where it says, were these people allowed to participate simply on word of mouth, faith, or simply because they believed they were Israelites? No. The text said they were barred. Folks running around here talking about they're Israelites and some even claiming to be Levites. Where is your paper or proof of genealogy? Your faith is not proof of ancestry. This is repeated in Ezra as well. So when you look at Ezra, it's the same thing. It says the sons of Delaiah, the sons of Tobiah, the sons of Nekoda, 652. And among the sons of the priests, sons of Abiah, sons of Hekol, sons of Barzillai, who had married one of the daughters of Barzillai, the Gileadite, whose name he adopted. These he took for their entries in the official genealogies, but were not to be found there, and were hence disqualified from the priesthood. Consequently, His Excellency forbade them to eat any of the consecrated bread, consecrated food, until a priest appeared who would consult Urim and Thummim. So they were of the Jewish religion and, other things. But the issue is, how is it that you had ancient Israelites who couldn't prove their identity almost 3,000 years ago, but you today, like so many other millennials, millennials removed, all of a sudden can? Where is your paper trail of proof? Do you even know who your grandparents are, great grandparents? You don't know these answers, but you know for sure your ancient grandparents are absolutely right about whatever they say, and there's no paper trail on them either. So to run around and make claims that you're an Israelite and all that African Americans are Israelites is misleading. And if you know these facts, it's become deceptive sometimes, because you're looking in the Old Testament and you're saying, oh, they trace themselves by registries, written genealogies. That's how they did it. Old Testament has people, has genealogies all throughout. That was just a practice. Now that is the standard and practice that ancient Israel used. They didn't use genetics. They didn't use bloodline, where it says your blood is 3/4 Israelite, therefore you'll get 3/4 of the curses, and you're 1/3 blood, so you're gonna get 1/3 of the curses because you're not fully Israelite. I don't remember that. You had people who also trace their descendancy by circumcision, right? Like covenant descendancy, and so if no one used the bloodline genetic marker method, why is it that it's perfectly okay for you to, use methods that the people in the Bible didn't use when you say that you want to go ahead and not lose any of the practices and customs, just like you say that, other Israelites lost their practices and customs because they moved out of the land. Meanwhile, you got a Bible right here that shows a practice and custom of something that you cherish so much. And so the question is, why don't you use this method?
Use what method?
Of registry, tracing your lineage by, an actual registry of your father, your father's father, father's father's mother's mother's father's father, and basically it seems that this is a method that's basically nearly impossible to use, um, which is why I'm guessing, why you don't use it and why you use genetics and bloodline instead.
Well, the scriptures even tells us to not be so caught up in endless genealogies. I mean, again.
Yes, I brought that up about 15 minutes ago.
But that's, I mean, you're telling us to do exactly the very thing that Paul tells us to not get caught up in. I mean, like, come on.
Right. I brought that up 15 minutes ago. I'm surprised you brought that up again because I totally agree. I'm like, hey, guys, like, why are we even doing
But
this?
that has no,
And
wait, so brother,
so,
that has nothing to do with the fact that we believe that we are that we are considered Israelites according to the understanding of what the Bible teaches and according to who we are as
no, these standards are not in the Bible, and it does not teach this. Nehemiah teaches the opposite. Ezra teaches the opposite. You've read it, and so that's why I'm wondering. Now you say you want to stick by the customs and the practices and the ways of Israel, and here it is, multiple times in the old covenant, in the Old Testament, to read for yourselves. And you could practice this, but I already know why you would probably shy away from it, because and you're like, yo, man, I don't think I can make a paper trail that big, and I don't think you can either. But nevertheless, this is what they did, to practice things, you know.
It,
But if you're gonna go ahead and use this bloodline or genetics, then all of a sudden you're ditching the practices of your people that you so greatly uphold. And
so
it's just
what we're
something to think
doing is
about.
so this is what the issue is. What we're
Okay.
doing is we're not trying to locate or identify an individual if they are an Israelite, which would be, you know, kind of the use of genealogies. What we're doing is we're locating an entire people group and saying that they are Israelite. So you brought up that verse about genealogies when I was telling you about the different tribes um, in Africa and the research. Actually, you brought that up
Right, and how
in regards
complex
to
it
the
is, and yeah,
right.
I
Yeah, you
remember.
brought
Yeah,
you brought it
right.
up in
Yeah,
regards to the research.
yeah.
And it's almost like, the question is asked, well, how do you prove it? How do you prove that you're an Israelite? And then I bring forth a method, and then you bring up a scripture that says, well, that's endless genealogies.
Well, no, no, no. The
It,
reason
it
why I
kind
brought
of,
that up is because you yourself were saying
but
how
it doesn't
complex it
necessarily
is.
relate. It doesn't, well,
Oh,
right.
yes, it is. You actually
In
said
the in
it
the
was very
in the sense
complex
that,
and it's
can
difficult,
you mute your
and
mic?
some forget this.
Oh,
You were saying that it's not very easy at all. It's actually very complex, and it gets
well,
really
complex in how
right,
the people groups ended up in the state or in the situation that they're in today.
right. You went at
With
great lengths
and the
about
reason
that.
why, and the reason why it's complex is you're dealing with um who wrote the history and what were these people called by the people who wrote about them, not necessarily what these people called themselves and their oral history. So you kind of have some things in there that you have to reconcile and piece together. So when I'm saying it's complicated, in the sense that it takes a lot of looking at, a lot of looking, and it's complicated because there are so many different tribes and people groups in Africa today. That's what makes it complex. But I mean, it's worth looking. I mean, it's from me and Mac's perspective, it's worth looking into because we're making this claim. Um, so when you brought up, the genealogies, it kind of, and I forgot to address that when you brought it up. It kind of seems like almost like a circular thing that you guys do, or that you just did. You know, you say on one hand you have no way to prove that you're an Israelite. Well, here I bring up you know, the beginning of a trail, a lead, and because I admit that there's a lot of information that we have to look at and consider. Well, then that suddenly becomes what Paul is talking about in endless genealogies, and it's not the same thing. We're trying to locate a specific people group, and I never said it's actually kind of.
But I mean, the reason why I brought it up is because, you know, when I heard you and G-Con talking, and this feeds into right what you're saying right now, you know, Paul ended up saying it actually creates more questions than edification. And you know,
But
you
why did it
guys
suddenly
went back
become
and forth
about that?
like that.
When the issue was how can you prove who you say you
Hey, so
are?
real
Then
chat.
all
I'm
of a
sorry.
sudden it's an issue of
Hey, so real, can you check
edification.
the side chat? Check the side chat real quick. Go ahead, though, bro.
Yeah, hold
Go
on,
ahead,
yeah.
sister.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
no
all I was
problem.
saying. Like, this isn't an issue of edification, being spiritually edified. Like, it's not an issue. It's a matter of meeting the challenge. Prove who you say you are. That's. I mean, and if you want to look at how they did it scripturally, genealogies had their place too. You know, like no, it doesn't edify. But if you need to, you know, prove who you say you are, you need that genealogy. You know, at certain times, Paul had to prove his apostleship. He had to say, I'm a Benjamite. You know, I am an apostle. So I mean, different situations do call for those things. So you can't just demonize, or not. I shouldn't say demonize. That's a little bit too strong. But you can't kind of put me in that category of, oh, well, you're not that. It seems like that's not edifying, or you know, or kind of looking at it like it's a useless or a pointless effort. I think that's unfair. And I mean, you guys are historians. You claim to be historians. So you do the exact same thing, only about the issues that you care about and that you are passionate about learning about. Um, so it's not really fair to say that what I'm doing or what I presented was me going through endless genealogies, um, and using that to say, well, or I shouldn't do that because it's not edifying anyone. Um, and that's just not true.